evolution, and there are three dimensions to the evolution. Biological evolution, and that is the Darwinian evolution, and we spoke about natural selection and mutation, and we discovered that natural selection is a distributing power, and mutation is copying mistakes, so it cannot really produce more complicated structures. Then yes, last week we spoke about, oh, this is frozen. Don't know what's happening here. Share. I need just to, do you know what to do here? I stop sharing and I'll share again and see what happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Are we all on? Yeah. Can you hear me all? Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. So the biological evolution, and we spoke about Darwin and the history of Darwin and the natural selection and mutation. Now, the next one is geological evolution. That means the layers of the mountains developed over millions of years, and the fossils took millions of years to form. We discovered that this is called uniformitarian, أو الوتيرة الواحدة. That's meaning the same changes that's happening now, they assume they happened in the past. We believe in Noah's flood that forms everything very quickly. And then the cosmological evolution, and that's the Big Bang, and that's our topic today. Let me remind you of the geological evolution quickly, because we haven't studied the flood in detail, but I'd like just to mention one person called Lyell, Charles Lyell. He said he wants to free science from the writings of Moses. He wants to discard completely the idea of the flood. And all what we are seeing now is the same rate as it happened in the past. Let me just explain that with this map so we can cover the geological evolution quickly. So this is the map of Europe and Africa and North America and South America, Asia and Australia. This is the map as we know it now. But all the scientists, even the non-believers in the Bible, believe all continents were coming together called the Pangea. They were near to each other. And the uniformitarian believe they have moved very, very slowly over millions of years. But we Christians believe that in Noah's flood, the fountains of the deep were opened, and as a result, the subterranean water broke the crust of the earth and formed the continents quickly, and then they are moving slowly. They are moving now about 2 inches, that means about 5 centimeters every year. So what we believe in the flood, they were broken quickly, right? And formed the continents as we know it. You see, India was down here and moved up here to fill this gap. And this is the world as we know it now. So if you measure the distance between North America and Europe, like 5,000 miles, and we are moving 1 inch, that's 5 centimeters every year. That means it takes millions of years to separate North America from Europe and Africa. But in actual fact, we believe that the separation happened very quickly during the year of the flood, and then we are moving slowly now. And this is the difference between the geology of the catastrophic geology that the Bible explains in Noah's flood and the uniformitarian geology that the people say they don't believe in the flood and in the Bible. They say the flood never happened. So these are the continents as we know them now. So that's the difference in geology. Uniformitarian, that means الوتيرة الواحدة, that means the same rate of change that we are seeing now, that is 5 centimeters a year. This is to explain the distance here that needs millions of years. We say no, during the flood of Noah, which lasted 371 days, the fountains of the deep were open and broke the crust of the earth. Now we are going to speak about the Big Bang. And I'd like to ask a question, and I'd like your opinions first of all. Who of you thinks that the Big Bang is okay with the biblical creation? That means the Big Bang confirms the Bible. How many of you think that the Big Bang confirms the Bible? Any answers? No answer. That's very reassuring, huh?
No, I don't
Right.
think so.
Right. Why, Osama, I don't think that the Big Bang confirms the creation?
I don't know exactly, but I don't think so.
Right. Okay, good, good. That's very good. Yeah. That's really the starting point, Osama.
Okay.
Let me explain what is the Big Bang first of all. In the past, people thought that the universe, all the galaxies in the universe are stable, are constant. They don't move. And they thought they are eternal. They had no beginning. That is the cosmology for many, many years. They thought this is the idea of the universe. Then Edwin Hubble in 1929 came with this big telescope which looked at the galaxies and saw something called redshift. You don't need to know the details, but that means the galaxies are moving away from each other. And because they are moving away, there is a chap called Lemaitre, George Lemaitre, who's from Belgium, and he was a priest, a Catholic priest, and he was interested in astronomy. And he came with the idea of the Big Bang. He said, if we are moving away from each other, that means at one point we were all in one particular spot. And this spot, they called it singularity. What is singularity? Singularity is the matter and energy condensed in one small spot. And the Big Bang means expansion. It doesn't mean a bomb. It is an expansion of this matter and energy, which started to form galaxies, and then the sun, and then the earth. When they started of thinking the, the Big Bang, they thought it is 15 to 20 billion years. The billion is 1,000 million. So they thought it is 15 to 20 billion years. Now they think it is about 13.7 billion years. So you see, the numbers are not really easy to comprehend. And the numbers, the difference between 15 and 13.7 is 1.3 billion years. And that's a very big number. So all of that is estimates based on something called the Hubble constant in the equation. And they keep changing the Hubble constant. What I want to say from this is assumptions. These are not facts. This is not science. It is an assumption. And we need to understand that. So lots of Christians said, okay, the Big Bang says there is a beginning, and the Bible speaks about the beginning, so they are all the same. In actual fact, I agree with Osama, the Big Bang doesn't really fit the biblical creation at all, okay? So let us take it through this. There is a scientist called Paul Davies, and he is evolutionist, and he doesn't believe the Bible, but he said these words. The Big Bang represents the instantaneous suspension of physical laws. That means the physical laws as we know them now does not work if the matter and energy are very condensed in a small spot. They don't work. So you need to stop all the physical laws that we know for the Big Bang to start. So that's a big problem. He said it is the sudden, abrupt flash of lawlessness that allowed something to come out of nothing. It represents a true miracle. So obviously the scientists don't believe in miracles, but when they spoke about the Big Bang, they said it is a miracle. It is beyond science. So because of that, the Big Bang is not scientific as we understand the word scientific. They needed a miracle to start the Big Bang. And lots of people said, okay, God did this miracle and started the Big Bang. Let us just continue with this idea because we will find there are many, many other problems. So we say, why this is more scientific than we say in the beginning God created. Let us see what's happening with the Big Bang. We start here with the singularity, which is the start of energy and matter together. And they say it is 13.7 billion years ago. As I said, billion is 1,000 million years ago. So it's a big, big number. And then they said the stars and galaxies are formed 10 to 12 billion years ago. And then they said the sun came together as 5 billion years ago. And then the earth formed as a hot spot, and it is 4.5 billion years ago, and started to cool down and formed the oceans about 3.8 billion years ago. And from that time, life started in the oceans and came on the earth. So that is the Big Bang in summary. This does not really fit with the biblical creation at all, because the biblical creation says the earth was created in day one and it was covered by water. It was not a hot malt like this. And then the Bible says that God ordered the water to come in one side and the earth to appear, the crust of the earth to appear, and he created the plants in day 3. And then the sun, moon, stars in day 4. And there is a big problem in the Big Bang actually, because the sun is two gases, helium and hydrogen. How the helium and the hydrogen can form all these minerals on the earth? Why the earth, the crust of the earth is solid and the inside of the earth is very hot? Why is that? All these questions are big questions and the Big Bang cannot answer them. So the line of the Big Bang, as I said, the singularity is 13.7 billion years, then the stars 10 to 12 billion years, then the sun is 5 billion years, and then the molten earth is 4.5 billion years, and then the water is 3.8 billion years. I will send all these slides to Basim, who will put it on the web for you so you can have all this again and you think about it, because I know that the numbers are too big to comprehend from just one listening to it. So the Big Bang is against the Bible completely.
This is something that
I'd like you to listen to this astrophysicist, Lawrence Krauss, who doesn't believe the Bible, and let us just listen to what he says.
This is something that I wrote a whole book about, and someone asked me yesterday why I wrote that book, because it is the most poetic thing I know about the universe. But the amazing thing is that every atom in your body came from a star that exploded, and the atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand. It really is the most poetic thing I know about physics. You are all stardust. You couldn't be here if stars hadn't exploded, because the elements, the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, all the things that matter for evolution weren't created at the beginning of time. They're created in the nuclear furnaces of stars, and the only way they can get into your body is if the stars were kind enough to explode. So forget Jesus. The stars died so that you could be here today. Okay? And anyway.
Did you notice what this man said? Lawrence Krauss is astrophysicist, and he said the stars died to bring all the elements that's needed for life, the carbon, the hydrogen, the iron, all the elements of life. So he said, probably the stars that died and formed the elements in your right hand is coming from different star that died and formed the elements in your left hand. And he said, the stars were kind enough to die so we can live. Forget about Jesus who died for you. So that is the danger of accepting the Big Bang theory, because these elements didn't come from dead stars. It were created by God, by his supernatural power of creation. So the Big Bang doesn't fit the creation model in the Bible. These are just books to tell you about the problems of the Big Bang. This is the critique of the Big Bang from scientists who don't believe the Bible, but they say there is a big problem with the Big Bang. So these are some references which I will send to you. Why only one Big Bang? They believe sometimes there are more than one Big Bang. There is expansion and retraction, expansion and retraction, and it goes on. There is another one challenge for the Big Bang, the new scientist. And then John Maddox said, Big Bang not yet dead, but in decline. That means it is an idea which they are trying to fix, but there are more problems with the Big Bang. The list goes on, down with the Big Bang. Yani, the Big Bang is not really the scientific explanation of the universe. Another one called Pirat said, not with a bang. And these are the references in front of you. Big Bang under fire. This is another scientist writing about the Big Bang and the problems of the Big Bang. I'm putting these references for you to know that in the scientific community, they don't agree about the Big Bang. But it is taught in the school as if these are the facts. This is how it happened. And this is a major problem in the educational system in the West and even in the Middle East. And when your children come back home and say that I learned that the world came from the Big Bang, you need to highlight the scientific problems with the Big Bang before you tell them the Bible says that God created. So the first thing is to put the doubt or the scientific problems of the Big Bang first in their mind. Then they will understand the creation model. The billion of years are the age of universe is not a fact. As I said, the billions of years started in geology with Charles Lyell, who said that the same rate of change that we see nowadays happened in the past. But that is a big assumption, because when the tsunami happened in Southeast Asia, islands moved within hours. It doesn't need millions of years to move. It depends on the force that broke the crust of the earth and caused the continents to move from each other. So the billions of years is not a fact in the history of the universe. It is an assumption. And it is interpretation of some of observations based on naturalistic assumptions. And they keep changing the age. As I said, they start with 15 to 20 billion years. Now they talk about 13.7 billion years. This is big, big changes in the number. It is not accurate measurements. Like when you go to the laboratory and check your blood and they say your hemoglobin is 15 grams, that's a fact. But when you say the age of the universe is 13.7 billion years, this is not a fact. It is an assumption. Patrick Moore was one of the great scientists here in Britain, and he wrote in The New Scientist, The Universe at Midnight by Ken Kurzweil. He wrote this paragraph said, Krauss makes no attempt to disguise the fact our present knowledge is very limited. So he's saying our knowledge now of the universe is very limited, despite the fact we had lots of discoveries, but we don't know the whole thing. And that we are still uncertain about fundamentals. So he's saying we don't know the essentials of understanding the universe. So he referred to something called the Hubble constant. As I told you, Hubble is the person who made this big telescope to be able to see the universe. And he said there is a constant which they keep changing this constant in the equation. That's why it keeps changing the dates from 15 billion to 13.7 billion. Then he said, neither can we be really confident about the age of the universe. We don't know. That's the scientists are saying we don't know. Unfortunately, when this is taught in the schools and universities, it is given as a fact. But the proper scientists say we don't know. He said the best current estimate is of an order of 15 billion years. So it is an estimate. It is not something measured. So he said the best current estimate, according to his time in 2001, is 15 billion years, but now they say 13.7. But it is conceivable that the figure may be drastically modified, changed dramatically in the foreseeable future. So these are scientists who don't believe the Bible, they don't believe that God created from nothing, they don't believe in 6 days of creation, but they say there are major problems with the Big Bang. Then we have Robert Roy saying most estimates in recent years have ranged between 10 billion and 15 billion. Can you see the range? It is 10 billion to 15 billion. So that's a massive range. This is not saying it is probably 10 centimeter or 12 centimeter. It is 5 billion years, and the billion is 1,000 million. So this is massive estimates, error. 10 billion to 15 billion years. Last year, that's 2002, data supplied by the Hubble Space Telescope led to an apparently refined estimate of 13 billion to 14 billion years. You see from these figures, these are estimates based on assumptions, and the range of error is very high. So this is not science, it's not fact, as we know the facts. Only words, this is Hugh Ross. Hugh Ross is a Christian, and he believes in long earth and millions of years. And this is a major problem. So he said life only works in cosmos of 100 billion stars, and it is precisely 16 billion years old. So he say, for life to happen on Earth, we need a cosmos, a universe with 100 billion stars. You need many stars. And the length of time needing is 16 billion years. But as you know, this figure is wrong now because they believe it is 13.7. But look how he was assertive in his statement. I will continue the statement and you see what I mean. He said the 16 billion years is a narrow window of time in which life is possible. So believe for life to happen on Earth, you need a universe of 16 billion years old. And then therefore, it allows me to make an interesting paraphrase of John 3:16. We all remember John 3:16, so God loved the world that he sent his son to die for us, so whoever believes in him will have eternal life. So he said, I'm going to rephrase that, and let us see what he said. For God so loved the human race that he went to the expanse of building 100 billion trillion stars and carefully shaped and crafted them for 16 billion years, according to him. that God took 16 billion years so that at the brief moment in time, we could all have a nice place to live. This is a Christian who believes in billions of years in the history of the universe, and he's saying that God took 16 billion years to build the universe so we can have a nice life on earth in this brief history of time. You see the problem when we get the ideas of the world and put them in the Word of God, we actually distort the Word of God. So he says precisely 16 billion years old. But now we know it is 13.7 billion years according to the evolution theory of the universe. So his statement is wrong. And he is very famous, Euros is very famous, and he has something called Biologus, or Reason to Believe, and it is a big organization, and they say that we don't take Genesis 1 as literal history, we just have to accept that as periods of time, and there are billions and billions of years in Genesis chapter 1. There isn't billions of years in Genesis chapter 1, and from creation of Adam till now is thousands of years, not billions of years. So there is a big contradiction between this assumption and the Word of God. Anthony Day said, most scientists who study these things, that rapidly expanding universe is about 13.4. I'll just move that. 13.4 billion years old, give or take a billion. So as if you change a billion, say 12.4, or you can say 14.4, as if these are just the same numbers, but they are not. There is a massive difference in these numbers. He said about 13.4 billion years old, give or take a billion. Gross explanation skillfully how we got to this point. Yet, he writes, the only certainty, if history has anything to tell us, is that this latest age for the universe won't be the last. All these estimates that's before our eyes now are not the last estimates. They will come and modify them and change them. Every night, astronomers are peering deeper into space and further into the past. And as they do, say Krauss, we dream that one day, just maybe, we will know for certain the true entirety of time. So that means we don't know. The scientists who propose the Big Bang don't know. So we really cannot really build our faith on we don't know. And we know that the Bible says, in the beginning God created. That's a supernatural act of God. It is not something that is uniformitarian. It is not the same rate that we are seeing now. Yeah, I'll move that again. Yeah. We speculated just last week in our top 10 space mysteries that the ongoing effort to figure out how old the universe is would yield at least one more estimate during 2003. We had no idea it would come so soon. In a study published today, that is 3rd of January 2003, in the Journal of Science, a team of researchers says the universe is between 11.2 billion and 20 billion years old. Can you see the difference? 11.2 billion to 20 billion years old. So that means we don't know. Because I can say it's 15 billion. How can you prove me wrong? I can say 19 billion. That is right, is really not science. It is estimates. The new appraisal, they said between 11.2 to 20 billion years, comes with 95% level of confidence. They are 95% sure that it is 11.2 to 20 billion years, which means that the door is still open for further revision, and that last year's tighter Hubble estimate might prove no track. So that means what they have is not sure. So let us summarize then. The cosmic egg or the singularity is unknown. We don't know that this happened. And by the way, it doesn't mean because the universe is expanding, the galaxies are expanding. It doesn't mean they started in one point. After I finish, get a balloon and draw stars on the balloon on both sides, and blow the balloon from the middle. The stars will be away from each other, but they haven't started from one point. So it doesn't mean because the universe is expanding, that means we started in one point. This is not essentially the case. Something comes from nothing. Of course, this is against the laws of nature. But when you have God created out of nothing, this is logical because God is outside time. God is outside the material world. So he can create the material world. Origin of the moon, we don't know how the moon was made. We visited the moon. We can measure the distance between the Earth and the moon, about 250,000 miles. Fine. But we don't know how the moon was formed. Solar system, we don't know how the solar system was formed. We don't know how the sun was formed. Stars and galaxies, we don't know how they are formed. I have another slide from Stephen, the chap who died recently, Stephen Hawking, saying we don't know how the stars were formed. We never observed the star forming, and we don't know how the gases will come together and form a star. We don't have a mechanism physically to do that. So the Big Bang is unbelievable myth. Obviously, this is not what is taught in the schools. So when your children will come back and ask you questions, you have to start explaining them the singularity and the suspension of laws of nature to be able to start the expansion. And we don't know how the stars were formed. We don't know how the sun was formed. So you can't tell me the earth came from the sun because we don't know how the sun was formed. So you can't tell me the earth came out of the sun. So there is another model. The other model is creation. God created. Let us see the age of the universe according to secular views. So human Ross, as I said, who have a big organization called Reasons to Believe, he said precisely it is 16 billion years. But now the secular world, no, it is 13.7 or up to 17 billion years. So he can't say precisely 16 billion because this is not accepted now. In 2008, they said 13.73 billion years, minimum and maximum for human life to happen on Earth. In 2001, they say it's 12.4 to 14.4 billion years. In 2003, they say it is 11.2 to 20 billion years with 95% certainty. In 2015, they are saying it is 13.778 to 13.82. From these figures, you just come to conclusion, these are assumptions. They are not measurements that we can trust. Let me just, before we open the floor for questioning now, start with something called the magnetic field of the Earth. Let me explain that. The magnetic field is a field around the Earth, which we think coming from the core of the Earth. It is a magnet. And it is very important because it protects the Earth from all the X-rays in the universe that can kill life on Earth. So the magnetic field is decaying every 1400 years it become half-life. If it is strong, say 6 degree, in 1400 years it becomes 3, and another 1400 years become 1.5, and goes on like this. So the magnetic field is essential for life. If the Earth is really 4.6 billion years, that means we won't have a magnetic field at all. It will diminish. And if it goes away, there will be no life on Earth. So some people say, okay, probably in the beginning it was high strength of the magnetic field. Again, in the very high strength of magnetic field, life is impossible. So it's only suitable for Earth to be thousands of years old, not billions of years old. This is the magnetic field. You can see on the screen, all these rays here. So as I said, this is a protective mechanism from X-rays coming from outside. It is reflected on this magnetic field to prevent it from penetrating and coming to Earth. This is the radiometric dating, and let me just summarize that very quickly. Look at the almaz, the diamond. So the diamond is carbon, right? And they believe it is formed in 1 to 2 billion years old. If that is the case, there will not be any carbon-14 in the diamond, because diamond is a strong stone, so it doesn't allow contamination from outside. So the Christians took some samples of the diamond and sent it to the laboratory, and they found traces of carbon-14. That means it is thousands of years, not billions of years, because carbon-14 measures only thousands of years, not billions of years. This is very interesting study, actually, and as you can see, I'll send the slide to you and you can be able to see it. So that is the reason that they think that the diamond is billions of years, but the practical operational science proves it is thousands of years. I'll send all the slides to you. You can look at them and see them proper. Let me just mention something about the fossils, because they think that dinosaurs appeared on Earth 245 million years ago, and they were extinct 65 billion years ago. That's Encyclopedia Britannica. This Mary Schwartz, this a paleontologist, and she has nothing to do with the Christian faith. Well, I'll let you listen to this, but let me explain it first. She was working on a bone of T-Rex, one of the dinosaurs, and she found red blood cells and elastic tissues. Red blood cells and elastic tissues don't live for millions of years. They live only for thousands of years. That's all. So when she found the blood vessels and when she found the red blood cells, she said, I can't believe myself. So she repeated the experiment again and again and again, and is giving the same results. So do you know what's her response? Is not to change the idea of millions of years. Her idea is there must be a mechanism, a bacteria or something, allow these tissues to live millions of years, despite the fact is the science is telling her it is only thousands of years. Let us listen to this lady.
Not going to believe this. But when she picked up a small piece to stop the reaction by putting it in water, it stretched and it sprung and it moved all over the place. So we knew we had something pretty unusual.
It appears to be soft tissue. When they look at neighboring parts of the bone, they're even more surprised.
Out popped the blood vessels, and they were pretty incredible. And I said, I don't believe it. That's not possible. We need to do it again and again. It's one of those, just goosebump-inducing scientific moments. That's all I can say. And they don't really happen very often.
Blood vessels should not exist in fossilized bone. Many scientists believe organic molecules can't last more than 100,000 years. Yet Schweitzer's bone is 68 million years old.
I think the presence of soft tissues and cells indicates there's a process going on that we didn't have a clue about. So I think it means that we have to kind of rethink the whole chemical process of making a bone turn into a fossil.
So she wants to think of the bone turning to a fossil and discuss the mechanism of that, but she doesn't want to change the idea that this bone, according to her, is more than 65 million years old. Despite the practical science is telling her this is thousands of years, not millions of years. Right, I'll stop here and we can open the floor for questions. Any questions at all? I hope it wasn't too much information tonight, but the Big Bang is, I tried to make it as simple as possible, and I'll send the slides to you so you will have another chance to look at them. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question regarding the Big Bang. When it is like taught at schools, do they give details about every step, like how it went from one step to the other, or they just give it as plain, as simple as what you explained right now?
Right, yeah. No, they give some details. They start with assumption of the singularity. And as I said, they are struggling on giving it a date. They started by 15 billion to 20 billion, and now 13.7. So you see the difference is massive. And then they say it expanded very quickly at the beginning, and then it started to slow down. So they say the first few seconds of the Big Bang, nobody observed that, obviously, but the beginning of the Big Bang in the first few seconds expanded massively, and then it slowed down. And now some people say the world is expanding and retracting again. And there is another view saying, because we say the Earth has to be adjusted with temperature and pressure and oxygen and all of that. So it is fine-tuned. So they say there is multiverse, universe meaning one universe. But multiverse is as if there is a machine producing many universes. One of them became ours, which is the right one. So these are the explanation they are giving. They say there is a nuclear reaction inside the stars that forms the hard elements, the iron and others, because the stars are mainly gases. So for gases to form hydrogen, to form iron and brass and all the hard and calcium and all of that, they said this is a result of nuclear reaction inside the stars. And then when they came to the stars, they said it is 10 to 12 billion years. So it's a big range. And then the sun as a star, they said it is 5 billion years. But the sun is two elements, hydrogen and helium. Hydrogen H2, helium is H4. And as a result of their reaction, the light comes out. So there is difference between the sun as a structure and the sun as a source of light. It is the source of light because of the reaction that happens inside the sun. So there are many questions which are unanswered. There are obviously more details than the one I just gave you, but all these details have question marks as well. Very good question, Soha.
Yeah.
Right, any more?
But nobody questioned these things like at school or at university. They just take it for granted and that's it.
Exactly, that's the problem, Soha, because the children are taught these are facts. So when you come to the church and tell them God created, they will not listen to you. But I think the way to deal with that is to explain the scientific problems with the Big Bang.
Yeah.
They say it is the best explanation of the universe now, but it has many problems. So let us highlight the problems and let the kids think. And just a warning, you need to tell the kids that in the exam, they write according to the evolution, the Big Bang theories say such and such, so they can pass the exam. I always say that even in the television programs I make, because if they say what we have chatted about tonight, they will never pass an exam.
Yeah.
So, but help them to think. Tell them, yes, that's what is available now, but there are major problems. In the exam, in the class, don't highlight the problems. But in your mind, you should have the critique mind to be able to say, this is not really a pure science, it is an assumption.
Yeah,
And again,
okay.
how the water was formed on the earth. And they believe from the water life started, which is a lot of complicated assumptions. You see the point, yeah?
Yeah.
Very good question, yeah.
Dr. Nagy, what about the expansion of the universe? What I know that lately they say that there is an expansion in the universe, and that's proof that we started from a kind of definite point, the beginning. But and I heard you that you said that it's not true. So how can we just give a reason why we don't believe in this kind of expansion, although it exists, or although the science prove it?
Right. The expansion depends on something called the redshift, but there are other physical phenomena that can explain the redshift. But let us say it is expanding. I'm not doubting that. Let us say it's expanding. But because it is expanding, it doesn't mean it started from one point. As I said, if you bring a balloon and you draw stars on the balloon on both sides, and then blow the balloon in the middle, you find the stars are moving away from each other. They are expanding, but they haven't started from one point.
But they will also question your kind of analogy that about the balloon. He said that, and what do you mean by blowing a balloon? Is it something that is blowing the universe, so that the vice versa, we can keep going on back and forth.
You are right. You are right. That opens a very interesting question, Yabasim, because I asked that to astrophysicists who said, do we live inside the universe or on the surface of the universe? Is the universe have a border? Are we inside it or outside it? All of these questions are opened, really. Right? So are we living on the surface of the universe and there is a core in the middle that we don't know what it is? Or are we inside the universe as a linear structure? We are not in a linear structure. Is the universe have a border? It's like a balloon and we are on the surface of the balloon. We don't know. So all of these are very interesting questions. But it doesn't mean because we are expanding alone, that means we started from one point. That doesn't mean that at all.
Okay, I got your point, but I mean, so why is the universe expanding? What for what reason it is expanding, and how it is expanding?
Yeah, it is expanding because according to the biblical model, because God created it to expand. He stretched out the heavens, but obviously this is a symbolic picture, right? It's said it's expanding like a curtain, but this is a picture. It's not a fact.
Yes.
Yeah, but the everything in the universe is moving. The earth is moving around itself, moving around the sun. The sun is moving around itself every 88 days. So everything is moving and expanding. What is the limitation of the space? Where are we going to stop? Where is the border? We don't know. So the answer to your question, we don't know. And in astronomy, I read a little bit about astronomy, Basim, and it's very difficult because we don't know. We know very little, despite the fact we know a lot. We know very, very little about these far galaxies and why they are there. I asked an astrophysicist in America. He's a Christian, he believes the Bible, he believes in six-day creation and all of that. I said, why do we need all these stars and galaxies? We don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Why do we need all this massive universe for the earth to survive? And in the Bible, he made the stars also, as if it is an afterthought, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so astronomy is one of the most difficult areas. And as I said, the evolution is biology, geology, astronomy. And today we tackled a little bit the Big Bang, but there are big questions that has no answers. And I think when we are dealing with young generation, it's just to highlight the scientific problems with the assumption of the Big Bang. The problem is this length of time. That means there is death before the sin of Adam. There are fossils from the before Adam, and that is the theological problem. Because all of them are related, actually, the biology, geology, astronomy, they are related evolution. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question, Basim. But as I said, there are questions that we don't have answers to. Right? Any more?
Is there life on other planets, or only us?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Life as we know it on Earth is only on Earth because we have all the elements and the components of life that is suitable for life on Earth and Earth alone. You know, when the astronauts goes to the moon, you see how they are dressed to adjust the temperature and all of that. Do you know how they are eating? They are eating from packets of energy. So there is no life as we know it here. But there are other creatures that God created? We don't know. There is no humans, that's for sure. Because the human race are made on the image of God. And when we fallen in sin, the Lord Jesus Christ came to save this race. So I can assure you there is no humans or life as we know it now on Earth, outside the Earth.
But other creatures there might be,
Yeah,
yes?
but when you say other creatures, what do you mean? The things that we have no copy of. We have no copy of a cow, for example, living in another planet. We don't know about the temperature, and there is no fluid water on these planets. So we don't have a life like what we know life is, because actually it's very difficult to define what is life. When you say what is life, you start talking about the manifestations of life, breathing and eating and energy and all of that. But what is life? Very difficult to define.
Like the movie Star Wars.
When an animal, what? Sorry,
like the movie Star Wars, that there's creatures, UFO.
The Star Wars is a big, yeah. Star Wars and all these movies are very dangerous, very, very dangerous, because they are imaginations. They are not fact. They are not science. They are imagination. And you know, in order to destroy any fact, you just mix some facts with some imagination. Like Noah's film. I haven't seen it, but I saw a report of it. There are some facts in it, but there are a lot of wrong things. So that's the way to destroy facts. So Star Wars films, we don't take our information from films. So it's not something I can recommend at all.
I don't know if you remember Anis Mansour and what he said in his book. الذين
Yeah.
هبطوا من السماء.
Yes, yes, I know that one.
Yeah, it's like it's imagination of different creatures.
Exactly, Riyadh. They are imaginations and people trying to explain things outside the Word of God. So they say the people who came from heaven helped the pharaohs to build the pyramids. That is completely wrong. There is no evidence of that at all. And that's dangerous, really. But look how effective these books were. We still remember them after Anis Mansour died. So we really need to rethink all of what we are getting from the media, from the films, from this is very dangerous, really dangerous. So there is nothing called humans coming from space. I had a debate here a few years ago with an atheist in one of the high schools here. And the first question he asked the kids, do you believe in aliens? And when they say yes, he said, bravo, that's great. Because aliens built the life on Earth. That's not science. It's imagination, excluding God the Creator. So it's a very difficult area, actually. You are all right.
Okay, regarding this story of the pyramids, I just saw a video lately regarding the measurements of the pyramids and how accurate they were and how they were built toward the exact north. And he talked about lots of numbers and mathematical equations.
Yeah.
And as you said, he said this cannot be like the old. Like the pharaohs, how did they get with this kind of information? And there must be some aliens. How do you respond to this? Like, what I thought about is that when we were first created and the first civilization, they were quite bright and brilliant, and their mind were like not as we are today, because we are maybe bombarded by lots of technology that our minds are not working properly as they used to be. I don't know if this is a good answer or...
It is very good answer, but let me just expand on that. The evolution think we came from apes and we were just less intelligent and our intelligence is increasing. That is different from the biblical creation. In biblical creation, Adam was so intelligent, was able to speak from day one. Adam was able to name the animals. In the book of Genesis in chapter 4, you find the descendants of Cain built a city. To build a city, you need a lot of mathematics and a lot of engineering. And they were able to raise animals, so they understood the breeding idea. And some of them were working in the alloys, which is the iron and brass. And to separate iron from brass is a very high technical project. So the early man was so intelligent. And to say that aliens came to help the pharaohs, if somebody say that, tell them what is the evidence. Do you have an evidence of that? Do you have a document of that? There is none. It's assumption. And you apply that, obviously that shows that the Egyptians were very, very, very intelligent and very advanced. Look at the colors of their temples. Look at the mummification. We don't know all of that. It doesn't mean aliens came and helped them, because the idea of the humans were developing from apes is a dangerous one, because we were perfect and actually you are declining. Oh, they didn't have computers, yes, but they had other technology.
Can we say
your answer is right, but you need to build on that, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Can we say that they used to use the magic and these things, and so maybe they had their knowledge from this kind of magic?
No, I don't think so, because magic cannot build a pyramid. Magic cannot make all these accurate measurements. There is a place for magic, but the magic has a limitation. You remember when Moses did all his miracles initially before Pharaoh, the magicians in Egypt managed to do similar events till the serpent that Moses brought when he stuck his rod on the ground ate the others. And then they said, this is the hand of God. We cannot meet with that. So we can't say that they built the pyramids based on magic. That's not acceptable logically or practically.
Mm-hmm.
We can't say by magic they did the mummification. That is science. That's a practical science. That's very good questions, actually, because that's what we are facing every day, actually. So,
yeah. Okay,
but this is the way. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. I was
No,
gonna
go
ask
ahead.
another question
Yeah.
if I can.
Oh, yes, please.
We couldn't explore the whole universe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So why not we might have like other creatures in another galaxy that we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
And what about
That's a good
the
question.
verse that says that Paul says like ولا خليقة أخرى تقدر أن تفصلنا عن محبة المسيح.
Yes. But خليقة أخرى can apply to the angels, actually, because they are created, right? But that's not the issue. Let me just go back to the life on Earth. Life as we know it on Earth is not replicated anywhere else because there are no conditions that is suitable for life anywhere else, like the life as we know it. But I'm not limiting God, for I don't know if there is something that we don't know that's created, but it's not bird or animal or human or fish, because that's only can live on the conditions on Earth. They came recently, a couple of years ago, and said there is a similar planet like Earth. So I went on the website to read about it. It is just a drawing. It wasn't a planet that they can visit. They just suspect there is a planet like Earth. And when you go and Google it, you find that there is nothing really documented. But in the newspaper, oh, they found a planet like Earth, but there is nothing. So life as we know it, it's only on Earth. Any other creatures that we don't know about, I can't give an answer to this. But life as we know it here is not replicated anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, but how can we prove that to other people who can ask this question?
Right. You reverse the question, ask them to prove it. If like the Lord usually answer a question by asking a question. Tell them, prove to me that life with the oxygen and saturation and the nitrogen and temperature and pressure and all of that is available somewhere else. Prove it to me. Let them give the proof. And when they give the proof, we can analyze it. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You just tell to them, life as we know it here on Earth is specific to Earth. The gravity, the magnetic field, as I mentioned, all of that is specific to Earth. If you go outside the Earth, you see how much technology needing to sustain people for a short period of time. So if somebody says there is life outside, okay, please let me know. Give me the evidence.
Even for the International Space Station,
yes,
the condition of life is the same like Earth. They making it with science, the environment like Earth. It is not left for the space.
Right.
So
what
it
happens
is not
with
far away?
Yeah.
It's close to the Earth.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing is they don't stay for years and years there. They stay for 6 months and come back, right? So they can't live there and plant fruit there and live and have their family and they have their kids there. They cannot do all of that. They are in a place where the gravity is very minimal, and you see them flying inside the capsule, right? When they open the capsule and they move to one another, and they are suspended in this atmosphere. And when they come back, the bones are resorbing and they cannot sustain life for ages there. And the stations really are very near to Earth, actually. It's not massive in the understanding of the universe, the vastness of the universe. So they are not near the sun, for example. They are just near the Earth. So it's not it is miles and miles away, but it is very near. Plus, as you said, all the technology that is needing to sustain a place like this is massive. So the idea of if there is not enough resources on Earth, we'll all go to another planet and live there, that's imagination. It's not true. Yeah.
I have a question about the magnetic field. Like in
Yes.
2020 now, what's the percentage? Because my question is to know when the Earth would be dissolved.
Yeah, okay. Right. I gave an example of strength, right? And this is strength coming every 1400 years coming down, right? The level now is sustainable and keeping the Earth fine. It's not going to stay for millions of years. The Earth is not there for millions and millions of years. It's coming to an end. But when is the end, we don't know.
Okay.
But it is enough for life to be sustained at the moment. Okay. For how long, we don't know. Okay. Yeah. Great questions, yeah. Any others? Okay. Next.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Regarding fossilization.
Yes.
Can you explain in more details, like how, like it happened, like when the flood came and?
Okay. Right. Right. I'll explain that quickly, but we'll have a full session on this, and I need to speak to you about the next session because it can be Saturday and we can spend more time. Let me just explain that to you quickly, Zahra. When a fish dies in the water, it doesn't get fossilized. It floats and it decays and it's eaten. When it's going to be fossilized, if there is enough minerals and enough temperature and pressure, so the calcium and magnesium will enter into the bones of the fish and make it solid. That's the fossilization. Tahaggur, yani, to become like solid, like a stone, right? That's fossilization. So for that to happen, it is an acute condition. If you leave it for a long time, it will decay.
Yeah.
So we believe in the flood. There is a conditions of lots of mud moving from one place to another with high temperature and high pressure, causing fossilization to happen. I will give you a full lecture about fossilization and about Noah's flood and the days of creation. These are the topics I need to discuss with all of you before we finish in April. Okay. So what I suggest, if that suits you, we can have our next one on the 15th of February, and that's a Saturday. What about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock at your time? Is that a suitable time for you? You are all back home and things?